Hello, welcome to this course where we'll be exploring pen and wash. Today in the first session we're going to be looking at flowers. Okay, so today I'm going to be demonstrating looking at foxgloves as they're all just coming out at the moment in the hedgerows and looking beautiful. Here's one where I've just got fairly straight stems and I've got a few little splatters in the background, and here's another version where I've actually gone to town a little bit more on the splatters, so I've got sort of a bit more of abstract, sort of blurry sort of flowers in the distance. So what you will need before we start, you will need a fine liner pen. What you were looking for is these are water soluble, so they actually run quite nicely when you put water on them. So what you want to look for, rather than looking for an expensive drawing pen, if you just look for a fine liner and just check it doesn't say waterproof, you should be fine. Okay, so you can look in Smith's or supermarket, just looking for a fine liner black pen. If you can't find one, a permanent one will be fine for what we're doing today, so don't worry. The colours you're going to be needing are, we're going to be using permanent rose and cobalt blue to get the beautiful sort of purpley pink of the foxglove flower. If you can't or haven't got permanent rose, rose madder will be okay to sort of make these colours. It's just so you've got pinks and you can get some lovely sort of purpley colours as well. For the background, we're going to be using lemon yellow and cerulean blue, which is a beautiful pale summery blue. And for the lovely dots here in the throat of the flower and side here, you're going to be needing some alizarin crimson and possibly a little touch of Prussian blue to make a really, really deep burgundy colour. Okay, so once you've got those mixed up, the only other thing you're going to need to do is to think about a little bit about your composition. I have just drawn here very lightly a couple of little lines with a pencil, just the direction my stems are going to go. And it's a good idea, if you can, to actually get a flower to have a little look at, because you can look at the markings and how, just wanted to show you how they're very simple shape, but they've got these beautiful markings inside. So they're quite white with little sort of burgundy coloured dots inside. As you go up the stem, obviously you get the closed flowers, and then as you go further up, the tighter shut the flowers are, the less pink you can see, and they're actually really quite white until you get to just little green buds on the top. Okay, so it's quite nice to have a flower either in front of you, or we are allowed now to go out and sit. So if you wanted to go and just sort of sit and draw outside, that would be a really nice thing to do. Right, I'm going to get my colours mixed up and then we'll start. Okay, got my colours all mixed up ready. So with the flower in front of me, I'm now going to make a start. And you will notice when you're looking at your flower, at the bottom of the stem, where the flowers have sort of started to disappear, you get like a little bud. So I'm going to start off at the bottom of my stem. I'm just going to actually draw the stem shapes very lightly first with my pen, just to give me an idea of where they're going to be going. Just lightly. There. So I've got the idea of where my stems are going to go, and try making them face in different directions so they look a bit more interesting in the composition. So you get a little ruffle of leaf and a little bud, the little sort of tail on the end coming out where the flowers disappeared. Doing that, and then I'm just going to start making some flowers. So you'll notice when you see the flowers that they are really quite simple. You're going to be drawing the throat of sort of the inside section of the flower, the throat of the flower here, and then just comes a lovely sort of little bell shape. That's as simple as that, really. Okay, and you can sort of work your way around. Putting these flower shapes on. Another one. Just do a few of these and then I'll continue and come back to you. It's just take a little while working my way up the stem. Okay, so I'm going to carry on working my way up the stem and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've got my stems drawn out of my fine liner pen now, and what I'm going to now do is I'm going to, as this is a water-soluble pen, I'm going to just very lightly wet the pen area, and it will dissolve, and that will give you the shading on the flower. You always want to dab quite lightly, and you do want to wet if you've got a water-soluble pen. You want to wet wherever the pen is, because once you put a wash on, it will run a little bit, so it's better to do it now and you're in control of where you wet, rather than it sort of smudging and spoiling later. So I tend to I'm just doing a little bit, and I'm just going to hold this up a little bit nearer to the camera so you can see. So I'm going to wet, and I tend to try and make one side of the flower look slightly darker, so you're getting a bit of tonal contrast going on. So I'll just carry on wetting this stem, and I'll then show you the stem area. Doing that quite quickly. There we are, the stem there. So hopefully you can see that when it's wet, it smudges very slightly, and that will give you a little bit of tonal contrast. So I'm going to do that all over these other two stems, and then dry it off. Okay, so I've wet and smudged the pen on all the stems now, dried it off a little bit. The next thing you want to do is get a white oil pastel, very similar to what we used, similar thing to we did in the other course. So we're going to a little bit of wax resist. If you haven't got an oil pastel, it doesn't matter at all, you can actually do this without, but what it does is, in this example, we're going to put a little bit, just glaze a little bit in the centre of the flowers and where the white areas are. That just means we can put a wash over, and you'll get some of the white sort of paper staying white. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to very lightly just smudge on some of the centre of the flowers, just very lightly glaze, and where the buds have got the white areas, see, the nearer they get to the top and the tighter the buds are, the more white is revealed. So they get slightly more white as you get nearer the top. So I'm just going to put a few little white dashes on there. The other thing you can do actually that's quite nice is just around the edge of the flower, just here, you could put a little bit of just on the bigger flowers, a little bit of a white line. And that then will stay white when you come to add your colour. And I'm going to do that on all of these, and then come back and I'm going to start putting some washes on. Okay, so I've got all of the wax resist added to this now. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to show you, I've got the permanent rose and cobalt blue, and I've just mixed a little bit of the two together to make a lovely sort of deep purple colour. So I'm going to start off by adding some diluted permanent rose to the flowers, and then I'm going to add some darker purple to add a little tonal contrast. So going over, and because we've got the wax resist, hopefully, there you go, you'll get, can you see, you get the white, the little white areas revealed, because it won't go onto that. So I'm going to do some of these flowers here, and then I'm going to just add some darker purple to some areas, just to give a little bit of tonal contrast. Go in and just give a bit of the darker purple to some of the areas. And I'm going to work my way up the flower stem, so keep going, and obviously you'll get more and more white as you go up here revealed. So we're going to work our way up, do all this colour, then we're going to put some green on. Just going to put a little bit more darker tonal contrast on some of these flowers. I think just a little bit, that's a little, just a touch of darker. darker purple, oops, on a couple of areas there to give a bit of, that's it, a little bit of contrast on the buds, just a little bit. There we go. Have that one there. That's fine. That's it, as simple as that. I'm going to now do exactly the same thing on the other two stems, and then we're going to add some green. Okay, so I've carried on, painted all those flowers now, and I'm now ready to paint the stems and the buds. So I have mixed together some of the cobalt blue and lemon yellow to make a sort of mid-green. All right, so it's a matter of just going in and carefully painting little buds and the stems. Okay, one, and then I'll you also obviously want to add a little bit of colour as you go up. You're going to want to be putting some colour just on the tops of where these buds are, these little flower buds up here. So you'll have little touches of green on the tops there. Little touches of green just on the tips of those buds as they go up. Okay, there, hopefully you can see that. Maybe you can see that if I get a little bit closer. And hopefully you can see that the wax resist has given quite a nice effect, even without actually adding any extra speckles or anything with paint. It's given you the idea of the sort of markings inside the flowers, which is quite nice. So I'm just going to carry on and paint the rest of these stems, and then we're going to carry on and do the background. Okay, so we're now going to think about doing some background, and I find it easier to go section by section, do one little area at a time. The reason being is because you need to thoroughly wet all this paper, thoroughly wetting it. Already wet it once, I'm just doing it a second time. Make sure it's, I've got any dry patches, and what we're going to do is then let the colour run and flow a little bit. So I'm going to start off with some nice lemon yellow, and adding some of this area. Then we're going to go in with some cerulean blue and let it run and merge a little bit. Put some nice yellows in there. And then what I'm going to do, get some cerulean blue. Already mixed a little bit with my yellow to get a sort of bright green. And I'm just going to come in and I'm going to put too much on, sort of roll the pen around and just let the paint flow a little bit. I'm just going to get some water. Just going to let that run so it's nice and soft. A bit more of the blue. Just put in here a little bit more. Do a few little splats. And I'm just going to let that run sort of diagonally off the edge of the paper. Put some water on to let it run and merge a bit. There we are. There we are. Run. Drips. That's better. Let that bit there run a bit more. Just put a little bit more yellow down here. And let that merge a bit more. so it's quite soft. And what I'm going to do is just wet right up to the edges of the flowers, and that colour will just run in. So you've got lots of white areas. There we are. And you can, if you want to, feel safer, dry that off and then move on to the next section, or you can carry on. So I'm now going to wet this area here and carry on. Just need to go and get myself some clean water. Actually, I've got filthy water here. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've got myself some nice clean water, and I've just wet this area here. And I'm going to do exactly as I did in the other section. I'm going to get some diluted lemon yellow and add in here. I'm going to start adding some cerulean blue to that in a moment. So just carefully go around these flowers. There we are. So I've got some yellow everywhere. Now I'm going to add some cerulean. And I'm just going to add a bit in here, rolling the brush so I get some colour emerging around. Don't get too much colour on here because I want to give it a nice light summery feel. So a little bit more in there. To do so it's sort of coming up, so it gives sort of impression of something in the distance there. So again, I'm going to let that colour try and run a little bit off the paper. Dropping some water on. Let that run out. That gives it a bit of sense of movement as well then, if you've got sort of coming out off the paper. I may just add a tiny bit more colour to a couple of areas. I'm just sort of dragging the brush, rolling it really, just to, there we are. Again, I'm going to let that, drop a bit of water on it and let that run. Holding it, just holding it and letting it run, catching the drips. You can add a bit more colour if you want to, or if you've got too much, you can always, if you want to, just dab a little bit. I might just dab a couple of sections there to lighten them up a little bit. That's nice to have a little bit of contrast, I think. Just like that little bit there to soften. So I'm going to put a bit more water on it, let it flow out of the paper. There we are. It's better. There we are. So I'm just going to carry on. I'm going to wet this next section and do the same, and then this one and do the same, and then dry it all off. Okay, so I've got all the background finished and it's all dried it all off. Now, the finishing touches, if you would like to, I mean, it looks quite nice like this, you can just leave it. But if you would like to add the tiny little dark speckles in the centre of the flowers, I've mixed a little bit of alizarin crimson and the cobalt blue to make a really deep sort of purple. So I'm just going to then put a few little splodges to represent the speckles in the centre of the flowers. work my way around on the bigger flowers and just add those in, and I think that just sort of finishes it off. Okay, so I've actually added all the little speckles to the flowers now, to the sort of throats of the flowers. And I think what I'm just going to do, just to finish it off, this is obviously optional, you don't need to do this at all. I'm going to add a few little splatters just near and there, just to give a suggestion of some other stems sort of in the distance. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually put a little bit of tissue down over here first on this area, and then using some alizarin crimson, I'm just going to, or you can use your permanent rose, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to just see if I can put a few little speckles sort of coming up here. You need to be a little bit careful, just trying to do them carefully so I don't go all over the place. There we are. Just a few more down here. And then while that's wet, still the paint's wet, what I'm going to do is get the palette knife and some clean water, and I'm just going to ping water onto the paint to let it run and merge a little bit, and I'll just better. So it's just water, not adding any more paint, and that you can see that just sort of lets it sort of merge a little bit. I can even let that run a tiny bit, just trickle slightly, just to give very soft effect. And I might just do that a little tiny bit, take the excess off. Just gives the impression of another stem in the distance, and I might just a tiny bit more in there, just down here, just to tweak the shape a little bit. That's better. And I might just bring that down a bit further, so it's almost as if it's continuing down beyond where they're going, those flowers there. I might just get a little tiny bit more water. There we are, just to soften that in. That's nice. There we are. And I'm just going to do something similar here, I think. Soften that there. Just dab it. If this goes, goes where you don't want it to, just dab it with a bit of tissue. It's fine. Don't get too worried about this. We'll do another little bit just there. I want it to be too regular and even, just a little bit here. Suggestion of something going on there. A little bit too much. I'm just getting some water now and pinging some water on the paint, just to get that to run and merge a little bit. Then I'm going to let that run and trickle a tiny bit if I can. Come on, move. Just giving the idea of something else happening in the distance, which is quite nice. Just going to dab that tiny bit there as a bit. There. Okay, and I think that sort of finishes it off. If you wanted to, you can put a few more speckles, a few more splashes on here if you want to. Okay, so I'm just going to get this all, I might do a little bit more down here. I'm going to get it dried off, take off the tape, and then we can see what it looks like when it's all finished. So here it is finished. I hope you have a go and enjoy this. It's a really lovely technique to go out and draw in the countryside, taking the little pen with you and doing light washes over the top. It's a really nice, quick, easy way of actually sketching outside, which I hope you will have a go at, because it's lovely and really enjoyable this time of year. I'm just going to show you a couple of other examples of some I've done, and that one's based on an echinacea. This one again is based on something that's looking beautiful at the moment, a little Welsh poppy. This one's based on a pot of tulips, and this one's based on looking at some little hardy geraniums that are flowering in the garden. These were done last summer, actually, these ones. Have a go, and I hope you enjoy yourself, and it'd be lovely to see any of your pictures if you do Facebook, to put on our Facebook page, which the details will be following on. Also, there will be a slideshow of some other students' work that have done this technique in my classes, so have a look at that. Next session, we are going to be looking at seascapes using the pen and wash, and use a little bit of masking fluid to get the sparkle on the sea. So I hope you join us next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.